can see the chart on page 123 summarizing this section. And it will give you the person, gender, number summary. Some of you were missing on the last quiz translation. Your translation was different from your grammatical identification. You identified the prepositionary statement correctly as a second person feminine singular, but you translate it as a third person feminine singular. So if it's to second person feminine singular, that would be to what? To you or to her?
You.
Would be to you, but meaning to you, lady. While if it's a second person, if it's a third, then it would be to her. If it's a first, it will be to me or to us, right? So that's where it's important to know what is the person. So a person is first, second, or third. There's only three. First is I or we. Second is you, masculine or feminine. And then third one is he, she, her, him, and so on and so forth. There's only three. Gender. We only know of two genders, feminine and masculine, but there's also neuter or common, as it's called in the textbook. Or it might be collectively feminine and masculine in certain sentences. And number. In Hebrew, we know only of plural and singular. We also know of dual, but it's rarely accounted for, so main thing is to concentrate on plural and singular. And these are your identifying points for the verbs, because when you see the verb, you'll have to identify it. You'll have to say it's a first person or third person, singular, masculine, and so on. In the lexicon, all of the verbs appear in a third person masculine singular. Or if it's a feminine verb, feminine singular. But third person, he did this. For example, if we read bara Elohim, and I don't remember, is that a patha here or another comment, so don't take me on that. And then Elohim, patha, okay. So this is translated, he has created, okay? Because this is the lexical form. If there will be any other form, it will be different with the use of pronominal suffixes or different other tools to identify it as feminine or plural, second person, first person, third person. We're yet to learn.
So all lexicons, this is the lexical
Yeah,
form.
this is the
third
lexical
masculine
form.
singular.
Yeah, that's why if you have trouble to distinguish what is the root of the verb that you're looking at, sometimes it's helpful to use analytical lexicon, because what it does, it shows that exact word that you're looking at, and it breaks it down for you and gives you lexical form at the end. And then you can take that lexical form and look it up in BDB or any other Hebrew lexicon and find out what the meaning or the range of the meanings are. Okay, so analytical is another tool that is helpful for you. You can buy. Don't use it as a cheat sheet and identify the verbs, but it's helpful tool, useful. Okay, so let's look at some of the Hebrew verbal stems. These are verbs that we're yet to learn, and we'll see how they work in relation to each other. So the first one is kal, and it's written out in Hebrew, kal. It's an augmented verb, and then it's basically either perfect sense of it, he has done this or he did this, or continuous present, the way we translate it. Either perfect or continuous present. We have the imperfect forms as well, but we're not going to discuss it right now. Nifal is a derivative of kal. It's another type of verb. And you see that the vowel pattern, if you look at it, nif, al. So that vowel pattern is very systematic throughout the nif, al verbs. It's rarely changing, only if there's a law of proper tonic reduction applicable to a certain word, then the vowel pattern will change slightly, but not significantly, for you not to be able to recognize. And you see the nun appears in front of it, so and a pathach stem vowel appears under ein. These are the distinctives of the verb. Okay? These are first two types. The second two types are PL, which has a hirek tsere vowel pattern, EL, PL. See, do you hear that? So it just follows the same pattern. And then pual is basically a passive. Nifal, the previous one, was passive of kal. PL is active, pual is passive of PL. That's why they're kind of grouped together. Then there's another type. You want to come back?
Which one? Sorry, the
PL
passive
is
active.
the active.
PL is the active.
We'll get to a paradigm where I'll show you how they're translated usually. Okay? This is just kind of a first session. Hifel has a hirek yod combination. Hifel. Okay. Then hofal is a passive of hifel. Has pathach stem vowel. Hofal, that's kametz hatuf in the beginning, which is read as o, and then pathach at the end. And then there's a hifbail with a tsere stem vowel. There's also other types of verbs, but they're not covered in this textbook. They're very rare. Yes?
So on the nifal and the hifil, hofal, and hifpile, the prefix will always, like on the nifal, will always be a nu with the hirik.
It won't be a new with some other vowel. It'll always be a new with the hearing. So you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Usually that's true. We'll get to the examples while we learn them, because not all the verbs will start with a nu. See? Some of the verbs will have the nifal form for kal. Other forms of kal will be just kal passive, which is a very rare kind. But because kal passive was able to pass through the grammar, it will remain in kal rather than becoming a nifal verb. The meanings, that's the interesting section, and probably the one that will interest you the most. Kal could be translated as simple active verb. They're active in voice, though a few passive forms do exist. That's the one that I just mentioned, kal passive. The kal stem also exhibits the simple or enunciated or announced type of action. Nifal, on the other side, could be translated as either simple passive or reflexive, like I saw myself in the mirror, or I hit myself. That's a reflexive action. Simple passive means Eric hit me. So I am in this sentence or I was hit by Eric. That would be passive statement. Eric hit me, that's an action performed by Eric. I was hit by Eric, that's passive action performed to me. So that's how nifal would be distinguished from kal. Okay? While Eric hit me, it would be the kal statement. I was hit by Eric would be nifal.
Is it context that lets you know if it's passive or reflexive?
Possibly. I won't go into it right now because it's just an introduction. We won't get to nifal probably by the middle of third semester. So,
What?
yeah, we will stick to
That's not
kal
even
for a
worth it.
long time.
That's not
PL,
worth it.
PL should be translated as intensive active. PL stem is sometimes used to express an intensive type of action with an active voice. In other words, the simple action of the call stem will take on some type of intensive nuance in the PL stem. For example, he caused me to learn. For example, well, if the call would be to learn, then he caused me to learn will intensify that action. And there will be some other forms where actually verb will change meaning because of its nuance. Pual is the derivative of PL and will have intensive passive translation. We'll have a pual stem, and it would be used to express an intensive type of action with a passive voice. For example, I was caused to learn, or I was forced to learn, or I was forced to worship other gods. These are examples of pual used in the text. Hifel would have a causative or active stem. Well, actually, I think I gave you the explanation for Hifel in the PL section a little bit. So the Hifel stem is used to express causative action with an active voice. So I caused the building to burn. Something like that, if you're quiet enough. Malach means he was king, for example, or he reigned in the call stem. The Hifel form will be himlich, which means he caused to reign, or he made someone a king. Okay, so that's the Hifel type of action. Hofal, causative passive. The Hofal is a passive form of the Hifel. The Hofal stem, therefore, is used to express causative action with a passive voice. For example, the Hifel verb will be himlich, which means he made someone king. The Hofal form will be hamlach, and it's translated as he was made king. Okay, he caused someone to become a king, or he was made king. So the subject now becomes the part of the action. These are just basic explanations so that you'll get at least an understanding of why there are different verb types in Hebrew. Hifpael, the last type that we'll learn, has intensive reflexive action. Hifpael stem is used to express intensive type of action with reflexive or sometimes passive voice. For example, the verb chaba, which means he hid in the kal stem, in the Hifpael form, hif haba, habe, will become he hid himself. Okay? That's the reflection. Again, some of these types actually have similar meanings, but there are little nuances. Reflexive was also in what kind of verb? We just studied one of the previous types. Nifal. So in Hifpael also there is reflexive action. So sometimes they interchange the meanings. Summary of the verbal stems. Let's look at the paradigm. Oops, the paradigm here. For simple action, in active voice we'll have kal, in passive voice nifal, in reflexive voice nifal also, for simple action. We have intensive action. We'll have in active voice PL, in passive pual, and in reflexive hifpael. And then if we are looking for causative action, for example, somebody caused something, then there are two counterparts, hifel and hofal. Okay? Kind of just separates them into their own little subdivisions of how they act in grammar.
So you can't cause yourself to do something.
Exactly.